All right, let's now turn our attention to everyday life. I want to talk a bit about women. The women are a critical part of any population anywhere. I once read a quote somewhere that the human race is like a two-winged bird. One part of the wing is the male species, the other part is the female. And the quote was saying, if you develop only one wing, one part of the wings, you will not have this bird flying. And so it's important that we see how the women come on board as well, because they're critical. So let's talk about social transformation among women. My guest is Rita Atukwasa. Rita is the Executive Director, Institute for Social Transformation. Good morning.
Good morning, Joel.
I'll begin by asking you a very plain question. How are the women doing? I know you work a lot with them. Your organization has, of course, men and women.
Yes.
But sometimes you want to focus a bit on the women, and that's important. If you were to give a report card of sorts, how would you say the women are faring?
Generally, I would say the women are faring like at 50% for so many reasons. You look at the social-political and the daily life. When it comes, we've come from far, very true. We know that today when it comes to issues of leadership, women are participating, issues of economics, women are making money. But as the country generally stands, there are issues that are happening, issues of poverty, issues of health, issues of access to justice. We are not doing very well. But for starters, I give it 50%. And especially today, as I'm here, I would want to talk about the women who work in the markets, where we all buy our food every day. So the women who are populated in the informal sector. And we have a symposium today for the first time ever, bringing them together to talk about their issues in the markets which have long been ignored.
By market, you mean, say, Nakasero, Karirwe, and so on?
Yes.
So what are you guys going to be talking about with them?
We are going to be talking about their issues of leadership, their issues of growing their businesses to make money, their issues of their agency and their voice as women. As you know, these markets, when they are set up, they are largely populated by women. But the trend is clearly showing us that if we do not intervene to help them grow their businesses, they may actually be evicted from these spaces, especially as the government comes in to develop these markets. And one of the things we are doing is, you realize the informal sector in Uganda is growing at a terrific speed, which is not very normal, because the normal process of economic development should be more people move from the informal sector to the formal sector. But the recent study by the Makerere Economic Research Policy Center shows that actually more people are now moving from the formal to the informal economy. And
is that a very bad thing? Because you see, one would think the quote-unquote informal sector is, that's just many times what we call the informal sector is what is really the low class, so to call it, but one would think ideally more and more people should be leaving formal employment and go and start businesses and employ more people and that kind of thing.
Yes, very well, and that's what is shocking. But you see, as the economic strive increases, people want not to pay tax. People also have small money to be able to trade, because they deal from 50,000, even below, to something like 1 million. And because of the high rate of unemployment, it provides a quick fix. So you even now start seeing graduates or people who are educated and you would think they should be going into more formal businesses coming back to this sector. But what is more important for us is that as we see the private sector growing, we want these women also to grow with it. We want them to do better businesses. We want them to develop their skills in financial management, their skills to be able to supply. Because when you look at most of these women, they rely on the customer that comes to the store. And trends are changing. Technology is here, and they are facing multiple middlemen, leave alone middlemen who supply goods to the market. Now we have young boys who have gone to school, maybe who dropped out, using their phones, their WhatsApp to buy produce from them to supply. So we've come to help them to understand this in depth. And
how are you going to help them? Because you're saying you want to give them a boost. Are you giving them money? Are you giving them knowledge, expertise? How are you helping the women?
Most times people think to help somebody they need money, but information is power. One, we help them to know how to take records for their businesses, to scan the business opportunities in and around their businesses. Not that you sit at the stall and amazing things are happening. We have women supplying all these mushrooming schools. If you're a woman with a stall of tomatoes, you sell tomatoes, you sell onions, must you wait for a client when you have a Tom and Jerry nursery school near you? Must you wait when there is a hospital that needs bananas, you can be able to supply. Because we are saying, let them not just wait. We want them to increase their margins of profit, but also be able to record and know. Because most times, as long as the money is rotating, I buy and put back 20,000, they are not keen at knowing whether they make profit or not. So we are coming to help them to do their businesses systematically, but also to organize them. You see the challenges they are having, especially to do with the government, to do with their sales of land. If they do not organize to have collective voice, we will not have them participate in the development. Because everyone thinks, for instance, in the city, you saw what happened downtown. Everyone thinks informal sector is kind of dirty, so they should be far away from the city. But today we talk about building sustainable cities for everybody to be in, whether the poor, the rich, the business people. How do we live? The environment.
How do we do that, actually? Let me ask you that. How do we have an integrated kind of situation where you that will drive an air-conditioned car can enjoy the city, and the other person who is probably in Lugabire trying to eke a living by selling some small merchandise, whatever the case might be, is enjoying the city at the same time, and yet we have orderliness, because that's important too. How do we get around that?
It comes back to the issue of participation and respect for people's rights. For instance, what do you define as development? Is a very critical issue. Do you define development with high-rising buildings? Do you define development with moving around in huge cars with the ACs? Or do you define development as an inclusive approach that helps people to enjoy life to the really best standard of living? For instance, how do we do it? How do you apportion to gazette, for instance, land? And you create a space, you know, this space is for the Juakali women. They have space here. You know, they had space at the railways. Where did it go? Who is using it now? Instead of taking them far places where there are no people who will even buy for their merchandise. So how do you plan to apportion the space? Maybe Centenary Park could be a different space today, not with buildings. Because we already have Garden City. Do you see that? We have Garden City, we have Hotel Africana, we are here at Selena, and there's enough spaces for the rich. So wouldn't you preserve another space that these women can trade, but they can also serve people who fall in their category? So it's a matter of plan and deliberate action for inclusive development, respecting people's rights, respecting people to participate, but above all, to be able to earn a decent living. So we are talking about the women in the informal sector, from the market to the fabricators, that government needs to turn a very good, keen eye to them.
Enterprise Uganda has been doing several surveys. The last time I checked, they did some research which showed that there's an incredible start of businesses in this country. But you see, as quickly as they start, so do they fall.
Yes.
Many, about 60 or even more % of the businesses that start, and many people start businesses somehow in this country, but many of them don't get to live to their first birthday. And there's critical issues. What are those you have found as you interact with, especially the women? Because many of these are actually women that do start these businesses.
Thank you, Joel. Yes, I appreciate Enterprise Uganda did study. We do also refer to it, but we also done so far 2 studies specific to the women in markets. Very true. You know why many people start businesses, especially in the informal sector? You need very little capital. The flexibility is very high. And also it kind of suits within their schedule of work. I'll be able to put tomatoes, then tend to my baby or carry her on my back if I'm not restrained to do so. So some of the things that constrain and they end up falling out, one is the planning. How have you planned to start the business? And also, how do you give it time to grow? Let me give you an example. When a woman or a girl drops out of school or a woman loses her husband, family members will come together, quickly put some money, maybe 200,000, go and start.
That would be a good thing. Many of them come to grab property instead.
Yes, but no, the research shows us actually that most of the women are supported because they are in the market in the first place because of the social breaks, the social shocks they encounter. So families come together, friends. So when they start, they have given you 200,000. But do you know what? They think now you're independent. You're going to start a business, rent your own house, feed your children, pay school fees. So the expenditure or the expected expense is higher than the income generated by the business because the demands are too many and the social support has broken down. And this is why we are bringing many things to them. They are in the market because of the social shocks. Why can't they use their numbers to be able to start social protection programs. You've had, if they were organized, it would be easy. Like Nakawa, they tell us they have 5,000 vendors. If they started a policy or a scheme for them to be able to protect themselves from such shocks, you would have even agencies come to them. And today we invited NSSF to come and be challenged. That yes, they are targeting people who work like me and you. But how about this virgin area, which they are not looking at? I know their law forbids them. And then we are talking to the Uganda Regulatory Bureau for Social Security to tell them that there are sections of people who are left out in this umbrella. Can they relax their laws? Can they expand? Because even if you give it to a small entity like Mazima, they may not finish everybody. But we have other agencies or partners we've called upon. Kasita started a fund. So we want these market women or market people to learn from them. Kasita has managed to organize themselves. Today they have a social protection fund operating under the law. So these women in their uniqueness, how can they be able to organize to take care of some of those challenges that are coming in the everyday life? Yes.
Are you engaging government? If so, how? Because at the end of the day, government on its end wants to do the regulation. It wants to come and collect taxes.
Yes.
And government has several, and not just government, you and I that are in what you call the formal sector, we shoulder a great deal of the tax burden in this country. Why? Because there's many folks in the informal sector that are making incredible sums of money.
Yes.
But they do not pay taxes, and that is not fair. Of course, you're not saying, you know, the women that are earning little incomes, go and target them per se, but everybody should pay their fair share. And so government will come in and they want to do that. So at the end of the day, you want to have them on board, you want to work with them to fix this. Are you?
No, you see, working with government takes several fronts. For instance, we appreciate now the Ministry of Trade has a department for small and medium enterprises, which we directorate, which we are working closely with. And of course, the issues you emphasize is before you even think of coming to correct tasks, how have you invested in the people? These women need to be invested in. I think about 3 months or 2, I had the Minister of Trade, Honorable Miria Chambade, talking about the program they have put up using through MTAC to be able to give them skills, but they were targeting, I think, hawkers. So we appeal to government and we have invited them. If they have monies in that respect, it is to everybody's benefit. These women are Ugandans. Let them come in and give them the skills because they need them. They are in their need of those skills. There is no way they are going to grow these businesses. Because when these businesses grow, then it's for everybody's benefit. We are also talking to government that emphasizing a point that they should not forget the vulnerabilities of these women. True, I heard even yesterday on radio that they have now finished, is it Western Region, to register, working with the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, to register all businesses in the informal sector. But they have got to do it cautiously. We want them registered because even us who work with them, if we have data and information, it is very easy. Even the National Bureau of Statistics will be able to tell us more. But to caution government that as they work with them, let them appreciate their vulnerabilities, be able to invest in them, and then for a future, we could have more formal businesses coming up.
So you're meeting them tomorrow?
Today.
Today?
Yes.
Today it is.
They are actually already at UMA Conference Center in Urugogo. We have about 250 women across the country, their leadership.
How do you select these? There's so many women out there.
We do target their structures of leadership. You know, when you're a leader, you're given mandate to represent and to take views on behalf of your people. We appreciate we can't call everybody, but when we target market-to-market trainings where we have been able to reach, we do talk to them. But also to say that it's not only us. We want many other people to come on board, from civil society, development partners, government, to be able to support these women so that we have a bigger section of women doing business. I think which we need and which would be good for our economy.
And perhaps finally, are you in any way trying to reach out to the men in these women's lives? And maybe not directly, but you see, at the end of the day, when women are grappling with one or two things, there's a man in the picture sometimes. Because now you're talking about they need to be supported. There is probably a man somewhere who might not think it important to do some investment, and one would think you want to reach out to them and tell them, look, it's actually a good thing. When her business is bolstered, it benefits you too at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Are you doing that?
Yes, we are doing. For instance, one of the things is that these markets, as big as they are, and the big numbers of women, majority of the leaders are men. So certainly we've got to work with them, but also secondly, reaching out to their spouses. Because as they do businesses and the all issues of gender equality, which I'm very sure you bring to your table every other day, who allows a woman to go and work, who controls their earnings, what supportive environment do you create? There are issues. There are men who say, you're not going to go in the market to make money because you will meet another man there. They usually use the word, they will steal you, you know. So we do reach out to them, but also working with the leadership to ensure that they have gender responsive regulations in the markets, because some of them are not, and also allowing the women voices to prevail. Some markets, they don't have women on the leadership. Some do, and some completely have left them out. So we certainly work with them, and the men are there. They're invited as leaders, as stakeholders, and as, you know, in the lives of women, like you started, that you read about the two wings, but also the Bible, I mean, there's a man and a woman. We must all work together. So we do target them.
We must work together.
Yeah.
Let's see how we work together. Rita Tukwasa, thank you for talking to us.
You are welcome.
All right, so there you are. That will do for today's edition of Morning at NTV. Thank you for joining us. My name is Joel Senyonyi. Good morning.
Geo Wild and more. All you have to do